The night begins without sound, and the world seems to draw a long, quiet breath before everything fades into softness. The edges of time loosen, the air deepens, and the mind begins to drift backward, not in haste, but in gentle surrender. Shadows lengthen across landscapes that no longer exist. Fields that once shimmered with wheat beneath forgotten suns, stone temples half buried by centuries of dust, and streets where footsteps once echoed like heartbeats. You move through them as though gliding beneath water, seeing not with your eyes, but with memory itself. The ground feels older here, patient and worn smooth by countless lives that passed before you. The air carries the faint scent of smoke, oil, and rain, the same elements that have followed humankind from its first breath. Firelight flickers across walls of clay, revealing faces that have long since turned to dust. Builders, singers, wanderers, lovers, all moving in slow rhythm, bound to the same fragile cycle of existence. You sense the pulse of ancient days within their gestures, hands shaping stone, weaving cloth, stirring grain. The silence is not empty, it hums softly with all that once was. Somewhere, a single flame trembles, casting warmth into the cold of time. Each flicker feels like the heartbeat of history, steady and endless. The sky above is vast and indifferent, the same one that looked down upon empires rising and vanishing without sound. Beneath that sky, the earth still remembers. Its breath is long, its memory deep, and you are now part of its recollection. As you drift further, moments lose their boundaries. The present becomes porous, and the past seeps through like mist through open hands. Cities dissolve into plains, plains into wilderness, wilderness into the first fires that lit the night. Every age lingers for a moment before fading into the next, the clang of metal giving way to the murmur of wind, the song of harvest fading into the whisper of sand. There is no beginning, no end, only the turning of memory, slow and circular, like a tide returning home. You breathe in that rhythm, and it feels familiar, as though you have always known it. The descent into memory is not a fall, but a slow unfolding. It carries you past what was known and into what remains. The quiet beneath the noise, the light beneath the shadow. Here, the stories of the world rest together, unhurried and eternal, breathing in time with you. Everything stills. The journey begins. The planner of Roman nights. Before dawn touches the tiled rooftops of Rome, a man awakens in silence. The air is cool, faintly perfumed by oil lamps that still burn from the night before. He lies still for a moment, listening to the hum of a sleeping city, the distant creak of cartwheels, the slow sigh of wind over marble. He is not a nobleman, nor a soldier, nor a priest. His power lives in the quiet margins of grandeur. He is the planner of nights, the unseen hand that shapes the illusion of perfection. Each day begins in stillness, yet beneath that calm, a storm of preparation already turns. The faintest sound, a servant's footstep, the clink of metal plates, signals the beginning of another delicate orchestration. He rises and washes his face in cool water from a bronze basin. The reflection that meets him is not proud but precise. Eyes that measure, hands that calculate, a mind trained to find balance in excess. The scent of olive oil, beeswax, and faint smoke fills the small room where he keeps his scrolls. On these scrolls are names, positions, quantities, the architecture of the evening's illusion. Outside, the first rays of sun begin to touch the domes and pillars of the city, gilding them in pale gold. Rome stretches awake, its breath a mixture of ambition and dust. To the planner, this is not the morning of another day, but the quiet overture of a performance he must conduct without being seen. He moves through corridors lined with frescoes that shimmer faintly in the early light. Servants follow, carrying trays, fabrics, lists. The villa that will host tonight's gathering stands still in its grandeur, mosaics depicting gods, marble statues glinting faintly in shadow. Every space must be transformed, not by extravagance alone, but by subtle order. He inspects the dining couches, adjusts the drapery, runs his hand over the edges of a polished table. A single, misplaced object could ripple into embarrassment. A wrong flower could offend a visiting senator whose family once fought the people who brought those blooms from the east. Every scent, every texture, every sound must coexist in harmony. As the sun climbs higher, the courtyard fills with quiet labor. Boys grind spices, their fingers stained with saffron and pepper. Women polish silver vessels until they gleam like pools of still water. Slaves carry amphorae of Falernian wine from the cellar, careful not to tilt them and disturb the sediment. The planner moves among them, speaking little but observing everything: the temperature of the room, the angle of the light, the arrangement of cushions where the most important guests will recline. He ensures the amphitheatre of dining feels effortless, though nothing about it is left to chance. By midday, the kitchen becomes a world of heat and motion. The cooks work like artists, slicing figs, stirring honey, roasting birds stuffed with herbs and dates. The air grows thick with the scent of cinnamon and smoke. Outside, the planner supervises the decoration of the atrium. Garlands of ivy and roses are hung along the pillars, fountains are cleaned until they glisten, and torches are tested for the evening. Every step is deliberate, measured like the rhythm of a slow, ancient dance. His thoughts move not toward luxury, but balance. Too much beauty is chaos, too little is failure. The goal is not to impress, but to soothe, to let each guest feel as though the night has been designed entirely for them, as though every moment of pleasure has happened naturally. Afternoon drifts into the soft gold of evening. The city hums beyond the villa walls, but within there is only preparation. Musicians tune their lyres, pouring soft notes into the quiet air. Servants glide between rooms carrying amphorae, glass, and trays of fruit glistening in oil. The planner checks everything once more. The candles are trimmed, the air scented with frankincense, the couches arranged in half-circle to invite conversation but prevent confrontation. Even the shadows are considered. How they fall across the marble, how they soften the sharpness of faces. To the untrained eye it will seem effortless, but for him perfection is the only disguise for effort. When the sun finally sinks, the guests arrive. Cloaked in silk and perfume, they step through the entrance as though crossing into another realm. The planner stands behind the curtain, unseen yet aware of every movement. He feels the rhythm shift as conversation begins. Low, pleasant, cautious. He observes from the edge of the room as the nobles recline upon the couches, their gestures languid, their laughter calculated. The poets speak softly, their words woven between the sound of lyres and clinking cups. The philosophers argue in whispers, their eyes half lit by candlelight. The air glows amber with oil lamps, and the scent of roasted meat mingles with honey and myrrh. The planner moves quietly, adjusting the flow of servants, signaling for wine to be poured, for the next dish to be carried in. Oysters, pheasant glazed with honey, figs filled with cheese, and wrapped in leaves, each dish presented as though offered by the gods themselves. He ensures that the senator seated beside the general receives the best cut, that the poet's goblet is never empty, that no laughter grows too sharp, no silence too long. In this controlled serenity, every gesture becomes art. His satisfaction is not in praise but in the absence of disruption. As the night deepens, the sound of music becomes slower, softer, more intimate. The lights dim as if the house itself has learned to breathe. The guests recline further, their eyes heavy with wine and warmth. The planner lingers near the doorway, invisible yet vital. He knows the rhythm has reached its perfect balance, not too loud, not too still. In this moment, the villa feels alive, glowing with the harmony of bodies, voices, and firelight. Outside, the city sleeps beneath the Roman moon. Inside, the feast continues in murmured laughter and the faint rustle of silk. The planner stands in stillness, his work complete. He does not celebrate, for his craft is not in glory but in quietness, in the creation of something that feels eternal, though it will fade by morning. The music continues, soft as breath, and the night of Rome turns gently toward its end. The quiet machinery of the feast. Beneath the glow of evening lamps, the villa begins to breathe with a quiet pulse that belongs neither to the guests nor to the city outside. It is the heartbeat of 100 hidden movements, of steps that do not echo, of whispers that guide the rhythm of perfection. The planner's work is now invisible. What remains is motion, fluid, balanced, unbroken. Behind the marble walls, servants glide through corridors lined with shadow, their feet wrapped in cloth to muffle sound. They move like part of a single, careful thought, hands passing trays, pitchers, and folded cloths in seamless precision. Each carries the memory of practice, the discipline of silence, the clink of bronze, the rustle of linen, the faint breath of a flute. All merge into the texture of the night, so soft that it feels like the house itself is sighing. In one corner, the musicians prepare, tuning their lyres and panpipes to the subtle hum of conversation beyond the doors. Their melodies are not yet music, only fragments of air trembling into harmony. Near the kitchen, the cooks move with ritual slowness. They taste sauces thickened with honey, lift roasted pheasants from bronze spits, and arrange platters of figs, olives, and cheese upon trays. The scent of roasted meat mingles with the sweetness of pressed grapes, with smoke and resin and faint salt from the nearby sea. These scents drift through the halls, settling into folds of fabric, into hair, into thought. It is not indulgence, it is atmosphere. A careful arrangement of air and warmth designed to soothe the mind before the meal even begins. The first guests arrive, stepping through the courtyard arch as if crossing into myth. The sky above is indigo, scattered with pale stars, their light caught upon the mosaic floor. Torches flicker in bronze holders, their flames small yet steady. The guests' robes whisper across the stone, woven of silk and linen, dyed in colours once carried across mountains. They do not walk quickly, they glide, each movement deliberate, shaped by centuries of etiquette. Behind them, attendants carry perfumes, jewellery, and delicate fans of peacock feathers. As they pass beneath the garlands of ivy and rose, the air thickens with fragrance, not sharp, but warm, slow, continuous, like breath drawn through memory. Within the triclinium, the great dining hall, the light has been softened to a golden haze. Lamps hang from chains, their oil faintly scented with myrrh. The planner stands at the edge of the room, unseen yet present, his eyes tracing the alignment of couches and tables, the intervals between movement and pause. The nobles recline upon cushions embroidered with threads of gold, their hands resting lightly upon goblets of translucent glass. The arrangement is not arbitrary. Every placement has meaning. Who sits near whom, who can see, who must wait to speak. This balance is invisible to the guests, yet it governs the night as gravity governs the stars. The servants move in endless circles, carrying amphorae of wine, plates of fruit glistening with oil, loaves of bread brushed with herbs. They pour quietly, refill discreetly, withdraw before being noticed. The music begins low and steady, filling the spaces between words. A dancer appears, her movements slow and precise, her bracelets chiming in rhythm with the lyre. Her eyes are downcast, her body fluid, an embodiment of order within motion. She turns, pauses, and bends in gestures so small they seem almost like breathing. The guests watch without speaking. The silence between them is deep, but not empty. It is filled with warmth, with the calm presence of shared indulgence. In this balance, every sound is deliberate. The scrape of a goblet, the soft exhale of laughter, the low hum of a string, all are pieces of the same design. The planner, from the edge of shadow, listens not for error, but for harmony. His gaze moves from servant to servant, ensuring the rhythm holds. One lifts a bowl of figs, another adjusts the flame of a lamp. A hand wipes the rim of a cup. Another carries a new dish to the waiting table. It is not labor, but choreography, a ritual of motion, performed without applause. Beneath the surface of celebration lies a deep and wordless stillness, as if time itself has slowed to accommodate such grace. Outside, the night presses gently against the villa walls. The city hums faintly, the call of a distant merchant, the creak of cartwheels fading down a street of stone. Within, the world is closed and self-contained. The marble floors reflect the shimmer of light, the movement of fabric, the faint sway of a hanging garland. Every detail is alive, yet none of it rushes. The planner breathes evenly, aware that to hurry is to destroy. Perfection moves at the pace of calmness, and he guides it with a glance, with a nod, with the smallest tilt of the head. The feast is no longer a gathering of people. It has become a living organism, its breath steady, its heart synchronized. The guests recline deeper into comfort, their conversation flowing in gentle waves. A senator speaks softly to a poet, a general listens without reply. A philosopher traces the rim of his cup with one finger, lost in thought. The words are simple, yet they carry the weight of custom. Talk of gardens, of the sea, of the patterns of stars above the hills of Latium. Laughter comes like the flutter of silk, brief and subdued. No one raises their voice. It is not restraint born of fear, but of grace, the shared understanding that beauty must move softly, or it will break. The air grows warmer as the lamps burn lower. The scents grow heavier, sweeter. The smell of fruit, of heated metal, of perfumed oil upon the skin. Somewhere, a lyre changes its melody, slipping into something slower. The dancer bows once more and disappears into shadow. The planner exhales quietly. The rhythm remains unbroken. The night, though young, already feels endless. The edges of thought blur as if time itself has been replaced by repetition. The turning of trays, the murmur of speech, the pulse of quiet machinery that sustains illusion. And so the villa glows, not with noise or grandeur, but with balance. It is a harmony that few will notice, yet all will feel. Beneath silk and laughter, the true art of Rome unfolds, invisible, deliberate, eternal. The feast continues, patient and slow, its perfection breathing beneath the hum of human warmth. The orchestrated chaos. As the evening deepens into darkness, the villa exhales. The air that once held the neat geometry of order begins to bend, warm and blur. The lamps burn lower, their flames softening into amber. Shadows stretch across the marble, and the smoke of oil and incense curls through the beams like silent music. The guests recline deeper into the comfort of wine and warmth. Their voices loosen, their gestures widen. The balance that had been so carefully arranged begins to dissolve, not abruptly, but slowly, like salt melting into water. It is the moment the planner has prepared for all day, the fragile threshold where precision becomes illusion, and illusion becomes freedom. He stands in the corner, unseen, watching as the ritual of indulgence unfolds exactly as it must. Music stirs from one side of the room. A flute first, thin and winding, then a lyre, its strings trembling in rhythm with the pulse of the night. The melodies rise and fall like breath, filling the air with a strange golden haze. Between the notes, laughter begins to flow, soft and deliberate, as if the room itself is finding its voice again. Servants move slower now, gliding between the couches with trays of fruit and polished cups of wine. The scent of honey, cinnamon, and burning resin hangs heavy. It is a warmth that feels alive, almost sentient, as though the house itself has begun to dream. The dancers return. They move through the room like smoke, each motion fluid, measured yet dissolving at the edges. Their garments shimmer with bronze thread that catches the lamplight, glinting like sparks. One turns her wrist, another bends backward, her hair brushing the mosaic floor. The audience no longer claps. They only watch, entranced, their eyes half-lidded, their minds soft with pleasure. The planner observes every movement, every pause. This is the point where control no longer commands but listens. The music and the murmurs weave together, indistinguishable. The air itself hums with rhythm, the kind that cannot be written or spoken, only felt. As the night swells, the conversation becomes more fluid, more intimate. A senator leans toward a poet, his words dissolving into laughter. Two guests exchange secrets beneath the shadow of a marble column. The hum of voices blends into a single tone, low and endless, like the sea against a distant shore. The planner senses the room changing tempo, the pulse of the evening slowing just enough to stay suspended. It is not chaos yet, only its reflection, still elegant, still contained. In the gentle disorder, there is beauty, the kind born from surrender. The lamps sputter as their oil thins, the flames swaying like tired eyes. Musicians shift their melodies to something deeper, slower. The planner gives a small signal, almost imperceptible, and a servant refills the lamps. Another replaces a platter, removes a broken cup, straightens a fallen garland. The house breathes evenly again. This is the choreography within the storm, the quiet machinery hidden beneath the surface of abandon. To the guests, it appears effortless. To the planner, it is balance kept on the edge of disappearance. The scent of the feast grows denser, spices cling to the air, pepper, myrrh, roasted meat, cooling on silver trays. The wine darkens to syrup at the bottom of goblets. The laughter becomes a murmur, rising and fading like waves against marble. In one corner, a guest hums a tune to no one. In another, a philosopher speaks into the air, his words half swallowed by the hum of the room. The dancers are gone now, replaced by gestures, hands tracing patterns in the air, bodies shifting in rhythm with unseen music. The planner knows the signs. The night is reaching its fullness, the boundary where the feast becomes something beyond celebration. He remains still, listening. Every flicker, every echo tells him what must come next. The sound of silk brushing stone, the faint ring of metal against glass, the distant hoot of an owl beyond the courtyard, all blend into the same language. He reads it as one might read a constellation. Slowly, reverently, aware that the beauty lies in pattern, not in meaning. Around him, the guests move as though drifting through a shared dream. The flicker of flame becomes their heartbeat, the scent of resin their breath. The feast has transformed into something wordless, a meditation carried by sound, scent, and shadow. Hours slip by unnoticed. The planner feels time thinning, like the last trace of light before dawn. He moves once, quietly, toward the musicians, and they begin to fade the music into near silence. The voices follow, the room slows, the air cooling slightly. The guests recline, their faces softened, their thoughts far from the marble and gold. Some close their eyes, others stare into nothing. The feast has reached its stillest moment, a place where pleasure and exhaustion meet, where the body forgets itself and the mind drifts into calm vacancy. The planner watches. His work is not to sustain the night, but to let it dissolve gracefully without collapse. A broken rhythm now would shatter the illusion. So he stands at the edge, the silent conductor of this soft undoing. A spilled drink, a falling lamp, a raised voice. All these he prevents with gentle precision, gestures so small they seem like breathing. The guests remain unaware of him, yet everything they feel moves through his unseen hand. As the final hour deepens, the house falls into a kind of trance. The light flickers across the walls, revealing faint patterns of color and shadow. The garlands have wilted slightly, their petals curling like sighs. The air smells of cooling wax and fading perfume. It is no longer a feast, but a memory being written in real time, a night that will vanish as quietly as it began. The planner feels it closing, the slow exhale of conclusion. He steps back, allowing the silence to settle fully. When dawn finally approaches, there will be no applause, no acknowledgement. The guests will wake to half-remembered laughter and the taste of honey on their tongues. The servants will clean what remains, sweeping petals and spilled wine into baskets. And the planner will return to his quiet room, his task finished, his presence erased. Only the stillness will remain. The stillness he tended all along, the invisible art that turned chaos into calm. The morning after? Dawn enters gently, almost hesitant, brushing the corners of the villa with a pale, uncertain light. The air is cool, holding the faint echo of warmth that once filled it. Shadows of the night still linger across the marble floor, soft and long, stretching over the remnants of the feast. The torches have burned low, their tips thin and grey. Petals float on the surface of spilled wine, their colour dulled but still vivid enough to remember joy. A single goblet lies on its side, reflecting the first gold thread of morning. Nothing stirs loudly, the world has entered a slower rhythm. The noise of laughter, the hum of music, the rhythm of movement, all have retreated into silence. Servants move through the rooms like ghosts of the night before. Their bare feet make no sound on the cold stone. They gather fallen grapes, broken dishes, and the ashes of burnt incense. Their gestures are careful, almost reverent, as if cleaning were a form of remembrance. The air smells of wax, fruit, and smoke. Somewhere the faint scent of myrrh still clings to the draperies. One servant opens a window, a line of morning light spills in, catching the faint swirl of dust that dances where perfume once drifted. Nothing here is ruined, only used, transformed by time into quietness. The planner stands in the doorway of the triclinium, his eyes moving across the remains of his creation. He feels no triumph, no regret, only stillness. The night has passed exactly as it was meant to. No blood, no scandal, no broken alliances. What remains is the shadow of beauty, soft and harmless. He steps forward slowly, adjusting a fallen chair, lifting a garland that has collapsed onto the floor. The petals crumble at his touch. The air is heavy with fatigue, but it is the calm kind, the aftermath of energy spent with purpose. He walks through the silence like one walking through a memory, each object holding the ghost of sound. A laugh, a sigh, a faint note of music. At a small table, he sits and begins to write. His handwriting is steady, the ink dark against the pale wax tablet. Each line is a note for the future, reminders, corrections, quiet wisdom drawn from chaos. Do not serve figs too ripe, they stain the tablecloths. Keep the wine cooler by the northern wall. Do not seat senators beside poets, their silences do not align. He pauses, listening to the faint rustle of cleaning in the next room. His mind replays the rhythm of the night, the soft entrance of the dancers, the low murmur of conversation, the shimmer of light across cups and hands. It all seems distant now, like a dream dissolving at dawn. The villa exhales, curtains stir faintly with the morning breeze. The sound of a broom brushing against stone becomes part of the morning's rhythm. The planner sets down his stylus and stands once more, letting his eyes follow the lines of the architecture. The archways, the columns, the light falling in gentle squares across the floor. Everything is in its place again. The night has left no wounds, only traces. This is his measure of success, that the feast in all its indulgence could end in peace. The house now feels emptied of sound but full of meaning, as though silence itself were an offering to the gods of balance. Outside, the garden glistens faintly with dew. A breeze moves through the olive trees, carrying with it the faint hum of bees beginning their morning work. The city beyond is waking, distant carts creak, birds call from rooftops, and the sun, pale but certain, rises over the domes of Rome. From the terrace, the planner watches the horizon shift from grey to gold. The air tastes of ash and citrus. The chaos of night has cooled into stillness, into the steady rhythm of another day beginning. Inside, the servants have gathered what can be saved. The silverware polished, the remaining wine stored, the wilted flowers thrown away. The marble floors are wiped clean, and the scent of lemon oil replaces the perfume of last night's feast. Every trace of human warmth is fading, yet the memory of it lingers in the air. The planner closes the doors to the triclinium. He does not lock them. There is no need. The room will rest until the next command, the next evening, the next perfection to be created and destroyed again. He walks through the atrium, his sandals whispering against the stone. A slave offers him a cup of water. He drinks slowly, the coolness clearing the dryness from his throat. His body aches faintly, not from labor, but from attention, from holding the weight of so much quiet control. He feels it easing now, the release of responsibility. He has kept balance between indulgence and ruin, between desire and order. In Rome, this is the truest form of art. The city does not remember names, only impressions. The scent of a room, the softness of light, the silence that follows celebration. The planner looks once more toward the courtyard, where a single brazier still glows faintly red beneath its ashes. He crouches beside it, stirring the coals gently with a stick. A small flame flickers to life, fragile but alive. It is enough to warm his hand, to remind him that even after the night's exhaustion, something always continues. He lets it burn a moment longer, then covers it again, leaving it to rest. The smoke rises in a thin grey line, dissolving into the pale air. The house is empty now, yet it feels complete. What was chaos is now balance. What was sound is now silence. The planner returns to his chamber, sets down his notes and closes his eyes. The faint hum of the city seeps through the walls, blending with the rhythm of his breath. The night's grandeur has faded into memory, leaving only the calm residue of purpose fulfilled. The villa, once alive with laughter and motion, stands again in peace. In Rome, this is how beauty ends, not with noise, but with stillness. The dust of America. The world turns, and the warmth of Rome fades into a colder wind. The marble and perfume are gone. In their place stretches an open plain, pale beneath a restless sky. The year is the 1930s, and the land breathes dust. Wind moves across the empty fields where wheat once grew, lifting the soil into clouds that darken the horizon. The air tastes of earth and iron. Houses made of wood and tin stand brittle against the storm. The people move slowly through it, farmers, mothers, children, each step leaving a print that the wind soon erases. It is not despair they carry, but endurance. The silence between gusts feels endless, like a prayer spoken without sound. In the small hours of morning, before the wind wakes, a man steps outside his home. He looks toward the east, hoping for the faintest sign of color. The light is weak, filtered through layers of dust that turn the sky to bronze. His hands are rough, his breath short. The soil beneath his boots crumbles like ash. Behind him, a woman stirs a pot over a small fire, her hair tied with a cloth to keep away the grit. She hums softly, not a song, but the rhythm of keeping time. Children sleep close together under thin blankets, their faces streaked with the dust that drifts even through cracks in the wall. In the distance, a fence leans half-buried, and a tractor stands still, its engine long since quiet. By noon, the air thickens, the horizon disappears. The wind rises again, slow at first, then full, carrying soil, straw, and memory. It moves like a living thing, curling through empty barns and dry riverbeds. People close their doors and windows, stuff rags beneath the frames, cover their faces with cloth. Still the dust finds its way in. It settles on tables, in cups, in lungs. Every breath feels like swallowing the land itself. Yet life continues. A pot of beans simmers. A child laughs at something small. A toy carved from wood, a moth caught in the light. Even here, in the heart of desolation, there is rhythm. The same rhythm that once guided fires in Rome and prayers in Egypt. At sunset, families gather outside, their faces turned toward the west. The air cools and the wind softens. The world seems still again, though it is covered in dust. They eat together, bread, a few onions, perhaps a slice of apple, if fortune allows. The meal is silent, but not joyless. There is comfort in sharing what little remains. When darkness falls, they light small lamps, their glow trembling in the wind. Some talk quietly about leaving, about heading west, where the air is said to be clearer, where work might exist. Others simply listen, their eyes half closed, their bodies too tired for hope, but unwilling to surrender. Weeks pass, and wagons begin to move. The roads westward fill with the slow, steady rhythm of migration. Carts creak under the weight of trunks and tools. Mothers wrap their children in blankets. Fathers walk beside the wheels, their faces hidden beneath scarves. Each town they pass grows quieter as more depart. The wind follows them, a patient companion. Nights are spent beneath roofs of canvas or stars, depending on what the weather allows. The sky above them is vast and pale, the moon veiled by drifting haze. Fires burn low, and voices murmur around them, not songs, but fragments of memory. In California there are rumors of fruit and work. They follow those rumors, mile after mile, through fields that once promised plenty. When they arrive, They find more dust, though of a different kind, the kind that settles on tools left unused, on tents lined in rows, on faces turned toward labor. But even there, they continue. The children play beside the irrigation ditches, their laughter mingling with the sound of water, that rarest of gifts. The women wash clothes by the stream, their hands red from cold, their voices steady. Men gather at dawn, waiting for trucks that may or may not come. Each sunrise brings uncertainty, yet each morning they stand again. Through it all, the wind never truly leaves. It becomes part of them, the taste of their breath, the sound behind every silence. Dust clings to hair, to clothing, to the very thought of home. Yet inside the hardship lies something quiet and constant, a kind of peace born from persistence. They have little, but what they have, they share. When one family's fire burns out, another brings embers. When someone falls ill, another brings water. It is not charity, it is survival. The dust, for all its cruelty, has made them one. As the years pass, the storms begin to ease. Rain comes, first as rumor, then as truth. The smell of wet soil spreads across the plains. Crops rise again, green and hesitant, bending in the wind that once destroyed them. The people, older now, stand and watch as the land remembers how to live. Children chase puddles, mothers hang laundry that finally dries clean. The dust still lingers, but it is thinner, lighter. A memory instead of a sentence. The fields whisper with new life, the sound soft and full, like breathing. In the evenings they sit outside their homes and listen to music carried from distant radios, faint songs of belonging, of hope. A man named Woody Guthrie sings of land and people, of movement and return. The words drift through the twilight like smoke. This land is your land, this land is my land. Some hum along, some remain silent. The melody is not an anthem, but a lullaby, a reminder that even in the dust, something human endures. And when the sun sets again over the quiet plains, the wind softens once more. It carries the scent of wheat, of soil turned fertile again, of time moving forward. The night spreads its calm over the earth that has been broken and remade. The dust settles not as a curse, but as memory, a thin layer of the past resting gently on the present. The world, patient as ever, turns once more toward morning. The music of endurance. Out of the silence that follows hardship, a sound begins to rise, faint at first, like wind through dry grass. It is not a song of triumph nor of mourning. It is something quieter, slower, born from the long rhythm of survival itself. The men who sing do not stand on stages, they sit by the side of roads, on wooden porches, or beside the small fires that mark their temporary homes. Their guitars are worn smooth from use, their strings dulled by dust and time. Yet when they play, the air changes. Notes drift outward, carrying with them the texture of memory, of fields gone barren, of families scattered, of journeys that never truly end. The music belongs to no single place. It stretches across miles of wind and earth, binding those who listen into one long breath. In the evenings, when the light grows thin and the horizon folds into dusk, voices join together. They sing softly, the words simple, their meaning deepened by the spaces between them. The songs speak of land and labor, of hunger and hope. They are not written to change the world, but to remember it, to hold something steady amid the shifting dust. Children fall asleep beside the music, their small hands curled against the cold. Mothers hum along as they stir what remains of dinner. Fathers listen in silence, the melodies filling the emptiness that words cannot reach. The sound is both a comfort and a record, carrying forward what the earth has tried to bury. Writers, too, begin to move through this landscape, their notebooks heavy with the weight of what they see. They write not of grand battles or kings, but of ordinary endurance, of families that refuse to vanish. Their sentences are slow and deliberate, shaped by empathy and fatigue. They describe the taste of wind, the smell of bread baked from what little grain remains, the quiet heroism of survival. In their pages, dust becomes poetry, hunger becomes memory. One story becomes many, and each one adds to the long, low hum of a nation remembering itself. Their words spread across cities and plains alike, carried by trains, by voices, by time. From this silence and sound, something larger begins to form. A movement, gentle and human, takes shape. Not a revolution of violence, but of understanding. The leaders who once spoke in marble halls now listen, perhaps for the first time, to the murmur of the forgotten. New laws appear like cautious promises, each one a fragile repair sewn into the torn fabric of the land. They build camps to house the displaced, schools to teach the young, and programs to restore the soil. The change is slow, imperfect, but real. It is the rhythm of patience turned outward, the same rhythm that once guided hands, carving stone or lighting fires in older worlds. Progress is no longer a march, it is a slow, steady breath. The music does not fade as conditions improve. It deepens, the guitars remain, their strings replaced, their sound carried further by the new winds of hope. In small towns, in fields, in makeshift gathering places, people still sing. They sing of the land that both feeds and punishes, of the strength found in quiet labor, of the dignity of endurance. Each voice joins another until the sound becomes a kind of prayer, not to gods, but to one another, to the unbroken thread of persistence that runs through every generation. The melodies stretch back farther than memory, reaching toward the same truth that once filled the temples of Egypt and the halls of Rome. That beauty and endurance are one and the same. As years pass, the music finds new listeners. Radios hum in kitchens and workshops, carrying the soft twang of guitars through static and distance. The songs travel further than their singers ever could, reaching those who have never seen the plains or felt the dust. They bring with them a simple message, that to survive is to create, that to remember is to live again. The people who once fled their homes begin to rebuild. They plant gardens where dust had buried seed, raise walls where the wind once tore them down. The music follows them into these new beginnings like a familiar wind whispering through open windows. In time, the words of the songs change, but the tone remains. New voices rise, carrying the same patience in a new rhythm. Folk songs become ballads, ballads become anthems. The instruments evolve, banjos, fiddles, harmonicas. But beneath every chord lies the same heartbeat. It is the pulse of endurance, the steady rhythm of hands that have worked the earth and found meaning in repetition. The people no longer sing to survive, they sing to remember what survival taught them. The dust that once filled their lungs has settled into their voices, turning each note into something real, something rooted. Even as cities grow and the world shifts, the music remains close to the ground. It belongs to the soil, to the breath, to the quiet persistence of life. It carries the same calm as the fires once tended by Roman servants, the same patience as the builders of pyramids, the same rhythm as the farmers who watched their fields return to green. It is the hum of work and rest, of breath and silence. It asks for nothing more than to be heard, and in that hearing, remembered. Sometimes, late at night, when the wind moves softly across the plains, It sounds almost like those songs again. The earth hums in its own way, a low vibration that seems to echo the music of endurance. It rises through the ground, through the houses, through the bodies that rest upon it. It carries no melody, no lyric, only the feeling of persistence, of life continuing quietly against all odds. And perhaps that is the truest form of the music, not the sound itself, but the silence it leaves behind, the peace that follows every note. The people who once wandered beneath clouds of dust now live among fields of grain. The air is clearer, the soil darker, the days gentler. Yet when they pause to rest, they still hear it. That faint hum in the wind, that memory of struggle turned into song. It reminds them that survival is not victory but continuity. That to endure is not to overcome, but to stay, to wait, to keep breathing until the season changes. The music has done its work. It has carried them across the years, binding past to present, pain to peace. The wind that once brought ruin now carries only calm. The dust has settled, but its story continues, alive in every quiet chord that drifts across the evening air. The echo of voices. The journey drifts onward, quiet and unbroken, across oceans and through the long corridors of time. The dust of America fades into the breath of another continent, where air moves differently, slower, as though it remembers every sound that has ever touched it. In the wide savannas of Africa, the evening light deepens into gold. A circle of people gathers beneath a tree, their faces calm, their eyes turned toward the storyteller. The griot begins to speak, his voice low and measured, carrying both story and song. The words rise and fall like the rhythm of a drum, steady and patient. His tale is not new, it has been told countless times before, yet each retelling gives it life again. The children listen with open stillness, the elders nod in quiet recognition. Around them, the air seems to hold its breath, as if the world itself is listening. The story he tells is not one of heroes or conquest, but of balance. It speaks of rivers that remember their course, of winds that know the shape of mountains. The people do not need to be convinced. They have always known that the earth listens as much as it speaks. When the griot finishes, silence lingers for a long moment. Then, as the fire crackles, another voice joins. A woman this time, her tones softer, her words woven with laughter and lament. The stories move from mouth to mouth like embers, each one glowing for a time before passing to another hand. They are not recorded in ink, but in rhythm, in breath, in memory that never ends. Far across the ocean, on an island surrounded by deep water, another storyteller waits for the moon to rise. The sky above the Pacific stretches wide and calm, dotted with stars so bright they seem close enough to touch. The people gather on woven mats, the smell of salt and smoke drifting through the air. The elder begins with a single phrase, ancient and familiar. It calls the listeners home, not to a place, but to a feeling. The story unfolds slowly like the tide. It tells of voyages and ancestors, of canoes that crossed impossible distances, guided only by stars and wind. It tells of how the sea and sky are never separate, but part of the same endless conversation. Each listener knows their part of the story, yet each time it feels new. The voice of the elder is the voice of the ocean itself, calm, vast, unhurried. In the northern forests, where snow falls softly through the trees, a different kind of voice carries. It is quieter, wrapped in the breath of the cold. The storyteller here sits near a small fire, his words rising with the smoke. He speaks of the first hunters, of the animals that gave their strength, of the way the stars align to guide them home. His listeners, wrapped in furs, lean closer. The story is not only heard, it is lived, remembered through action, through ritual. When he finishes, they sit in silence, the only sound the soft crackle of the fire and the whisper of snow against the roof. The story has not ended, it has only entered them again. Time moves forward, yet the voices remain. In the markets of the Middle East, in the courtyards of India, in the narrow lanes of old Europe, words still rise and circle like smoke. Poets and wanderers speak to the rhythm of their own footsteps, carrying the same pulse that has moved through humanity since the first spark of memory. Some tell of kings and empires, others of love or loss, but beneath all stories lies the same quiet truth, that no moment is ever truly lost if it is spoken. Each word becomes an anchor against forgetting. Each listener becomes a vessel for continuity. The human voice, fragile as it seems, becomes the most enduring structure of all. Through centuries, the storytellers change form, but not purpose. The griots become poets, the poets become singers, the singers become the soft hum of machines replaying echoes of the past. Yet the rhythm does not break. It moves through time like a current beneath still water, unseen but constant. The language evolves, the names change, but the tone remains the same, steady, patient, alive. Even when silence falls, the silence itself feels like the space between verses, a pause before another story begins. The earth listens and the air keeps its shape. Far to the west, among ruins long reclaimed by sand, an ancient temple still stands. Its walls are marked by wind and sun, its stones cool and unyielding. Inside, where light filters in thin lines through broken ceilings, an oracle once spoke. Now only the sound of air remains. Yet it carries something. If you listen closely, it seems as though a whisper lingers, not in prophecy but in remembrance. The voice does not tell of future wars or kings, it simply names what was. The echo within the stone feels alive, humming softly with the memory of countless words spoken and heard, fading and returning again. Time has not erased it, it has only deepened its tone. Everywhere across the world, stories still find their way into the night. A grandmother hums to a child half asleep. A fisherman tells his son the secrets of the tide. A traveler recalls the shape of a mountain seen years ago. These are not separate moments. They are threads woven into the same vast fabric. The pattern is too large to see, but it holds. The rhythm is too slow to hear, but it endures. The echo of voices crosses generations, crossing borders, returning always to the same place. The human need to remember, to belong, to make sense of silence. As centuries pass, the voices blend. Some are lost, some transformed, some reborn in new tongues. Yet within each, the pulse remains. It is the heartbeat of humanity, slow and certain, echoing beneath the surface of history. It does not demand to be heard, it simply continues. When one story fades, another rises. When one language falls quiet, another learns to sing. The continuity is not in sound, but in breath. And in the act of speaking, listening, repeating, the world itself becomes an instrument, its wind and water carrying fragments of these words long after their speakers have gone. And so the stories travel, through memory, through air, through the endless passage of time. They no longer belong to anyone. They belong to the world, to the quiet that holds them, to the rhythm that keeps them alive. Somewhere, across every horizon, another voice begins again, calm, patient, unhurried. It does not seek to teach or to command. It speaks only to remember. The listener does not need to understand the words. The meaning lies in the sound, in the continuity of breath. The story is older than language, older than the earth that holds it. It hums softly still beneath every silence, within every heart that listens long enough to hear. The thread of connection. The long passage of time unfolds like a quiet tapestry, each thread drawn from the same patient rhythm. Across centuries and continents the forms change. Marble gives way to wood, ink replaces ash, and the human voice becomes parchment, becomes echo, becomes light. Yet beneath all transformation, one truth endures, the instinct to remember. From the planner of Roman knights arranging the symmetry of candles and wine, to the farmer of the Dust Bowl turning cracked soil with his bare hands, to the singer in a small town strumming a song of the land, all share the same quiet intention, to preserve warmth against the vastness of night, to leave something behind that does not vanish when the fire fades. The empire of Rome glowed with the sheen of order, its marble villas, its golden banquets, its endless evenings of music and smoke, all now turned to dust, yet still present in the imagination, as though the laughter and light had never truly disappeared. What those gatherings sought was not excess, but a kind of permanence, a moment held still within the movement of time. The planner, careful and unseen, gave structure to transience, knowing that beauty could not be preserved by possession, only by ritual. Every feast was a brief defiance of the inevitable dark, an offering of sound and scent to memory itself. When the lamps burned out and the guests departed, what remained was not ruin, but rhythm, the pulse of preparation, the care placed into each act. Even now, across the centuries, that same care lingers like perfume upon the air of history. Far away in another age, the farmers of America bent over dry fields, their hands cracked from labor, their faces turned toward a sky without mercy. Yet within that silence, they too carried the thread. When the land failed them, they remembered how to wait. When the wind erased their footprints, they remembered how to sing. The songs born from their endurance carried the same warmth once found in the Roman hearth. They were humbler, quieter, stripped of marble and gold, yet filled with something greater, the steady grace of those who persist. Their music held no grandeur, only the low hum of faith in the next sunrise, and in that hum lay connection, between ages, between lives, between the countless small gestures that make survival a form of art. The wanderers, too, have kept the thread alive. From the storytellers of the desert to the poets of the city, each carries a portion of the same flame. They speak softly beneath the stars or beneath lamplight, their words moving through the air like smoke. They do not command attention, they invite stillness. What they offer is not instruction but continuity, the reminder that the story of the world is not written once, but endlessly rewritten, every breath another syllable in a language older than speech. Their voices echo across time not because they are loud, but because they are patient. In their calm persistence, the shape of humanity becomes clear again, fragile, deliberate, and unending. To speak is to preserve warmth, to write is to shelter the moment from disappearance. Each act of creation is an ember carried forward. The Roman planner composed his evenings from scent and sound. The American singer shaped his sorrow into melody. The African griot wove generations into a single verse. The Polynesian navigator traced the ocean's memory across the stars. The philosopher of Athens, the scribe of Alexandria, the painter of Florence, all touched the same thread, unknowingly holding the same quiet end. What connects them is not their grandeur, but their devotion to the act of keeping. Through them, the light continues, faint yet unbroken, like a flame protected by cupped hands against the wind. Empires have risen and fallen, their monuments crumbled, their languages dissolved into silence. Yet the human impulse to remember remains untouched. The dust of Rome, the soil of America, the salt of the Pacific, all carry fragments of that same endurance. Each civilization leaves behind a residue of intention, a whisper that says, "We were here, and we cared to leave something of ourselves." It is not pride that drives it, but instinct. The need to soften the dark, to make the endless night gentle with meaning. From the chisel against stone to the ink upon paper, from the vibration of song to the glow of a screen, the gesture repeats itself. Creation becomes remembrance. Remembrance becomes warmth. As the night deepens again, the images of the past blend together. The Roman villa lit by torches, the Oklahoma plain under dust, the storyteller by firelight, the poet bent over his desk. Each scene belongs to a different age, yet they share the same atmosphere, a balance between silence and breath. They are moments of still humanity suspended within the vastness of time. No empire, no era has held it exclusively. It drifts freely, passed hand to hand, word to word, from the beginning of speech to the hum of the present. It is the thread of connection that binds the living to the lost, the now to the before, the visible to the unseen. In the quiet of reflection, one might imagine the thread itself, not made of gold or silk, but of something lighter, almost transparent. It winds through centuries, touching every life for a moment before moving on. It has no beginning, no end, only motion. It does not pull, it follows. It gathers the small details that define existence, the tilt of a cup, the sound of a voice, the pattern of a breath. What seems separate becomes woven together by this invisible line. Rome and America, the banquet and the field, the feast and the famine, all part of the same pattern, repeating and resolving in endless rhythm. The world continues to turn, slow and certain. The dust settles on the ruins and grass grows through the cracks. The cities glow at night, their lights flickering like distant constellations. Somewhere, someone hums an old tune. Somewhere else, someone writes a new story. These are not separate acts, but echoes, one feeding the other. The planner, the farmer, the singer, the wanderer. They exist in every age, wearing different names, speaking in different tongues, yet carrying the same purpose. They keep the darkness at bay. They hold the warmth of life just long enough to pass it on. And when the final silence comes, as it always does, it will not erase them. Their gestures, their songs, their quiet labor will remain suspended in the breath of the world, turning endlessly like dust in sunlight. The thread will not break. It will continue invisible but eternal, stretching across time like a whisper of light. From the first spark of fire to the faint hum of electricity, from the laughter in marble halls to the sigh of wind over open plains, it endures. It is the thread of connection, the soft pulse of everything that has ever been alive, binding past and present into one unbroken moment. The sleep of history. The fires that once burned across empires fade into embers, glowing faintly beneath the slow turning of the earth. The light that once fell upon marble, upon soil, upon the pages of unwritten memory, withdraws quietly, leaving only the hush that follows creation. Rome's echo dissolves into the wind. The footsteps of its poets, its servants, its dreamers blur into the soil they once walked. the same wind that carried the dust of their cities drifts across the plains of America, over the ancient rivers of Africa, through the temples of forgotten gods. All of it folds together, soft and seamless, like the last exhale before sleep. The world grows still, yet within that stillness life continues its secret rhythm. The gentle pulse of being, the murmur beneath silence, the memory that refuses to fade. The sky deepens, taking on the color of stone cooled by centuries. Stars appear not as points of brilliance, but as the quiet eyes of time, patient and unblinking. They look down upon what remains, not ruins, not relics, but traces of presence, a pattern of brick beneath grass, a piece of pottery smoothed by river water, a word carved too faintly to be read. Every fragment holds a whisper of warmth, a remnant of a hand, a thought, a breath. The earth, in its infinite calm, keeps these remnants safe. It is both cradle and archive, the keeper of everything once alive. The noise of history fades, but the essence remains, embedded in layers of dust and stone, stored not for remembrance, but for continuity. The past does not vanish, it simply shifts into another form of quiet existence. Across the landscape of time, the boundaries between ages dissolve. The Roman feast, the American dust storm, the songs of the griot, the footsteps of travelers, all flow into one another, their edges softened by the long patience of the universe. The air holds them like overlapping voices in a single tone, so gentle it becomes indistinguishable from silence. This is the sound of history at rest, not gone but resting, waiting in the deep folds of the world's sleep. The planners and poets, the laborers and wanderers, the builders and dreamers, all return to the same still point, to the same shared breath that first gave shape to memory. What they created remains suspended like stars reflected upon water, fragile, luminous, eternal in its impermanence. The cities that once glowed with fire and ambition now lie beneath the quiet weight of the sky. Their walls have fallen, their streets softened into the soil. The marble that once bore names now lies anonymous, smoothed by rain and time. Yet there is no tragedy in their disappearance. The fading is part of the rhythm, the same rhythm that built them, the same rhythm that will build again. Every civilization, no matter how vast, is a heartbeat in the larger pulse of the world. The decline is not an ending, but a long, slow breath out, a necessary silence between movements. Through this stillness the earth restores its balance. Grass grows where columns once stood, rivers reclaim their paths, light filters through new leaves, touching ground that remembers the weight of human steps. Somewhere, in the distance, a single ember remains. It flickers within the memory of those who remember, within the words that continue to be spoken, within the quiet persistence of creation. A writer bends over a page, his candle burning low. A child listens to an old song and hums along without knowing its origin. A wind moves through an empty hall, and for an instant it sounds like laughter. These are not remnants of loss, they are continuations, small, steady affirmations that history, even in its deepest sleep, still breathes. Every whisper of motion, every flicker of warmth is part of the same unbroken cycle. Nothing is forgotten, it simply changes form. The air grows heavier now, filled with the quiet weight of time. The rhythm of centuries becomes a single, continuous exhale. The ocean's tide moves in slow harmony with the movement of stars, as if the entire world were rocking gently toward stillness. Mountains hold their silhouettes against the dim horizon, their shapes unchanged by all the empires that rose and fell beneath them. Forests stretch their roots into the ground where cities once stood, weaving through the stones, through the bones, through the forgotten names. The earth does not mourn what it reclaims, it simply absorbs it, turns it into something new, something older, something endlessly familiar. Within this vast stillness you find yourself again, not as a spectator, but as part of it. The quiet of history is not outside of you, it breathes through you. Your pulse echoes the same rhythm as the fires once kindled, as the songs once sung, as the hands that built and wrote and remembered. You carry the thread forward without knowing, the same way breath carries life forward from moment to moment. The dust that falls upon your skin once belonged to another life, another world, another dream. The air that fills your lungs has travelled across centuries, through ruins and oceans, through forests and cities, unchanged in its essence. You are not apart from history. You are its continuation, one soft heartbeat within the long sleep of time. As the night deepens, even memory begins to quiet. The stories, once vivid, fade into abstraction. Colours without form, sounds without beginning or end. Yet they are not gone. They have merely joined the great rhythm of rest. The planner's careful notes, the farmer's song, the poet's ink, the builder's chisel, all now hum beneath the surface, becoming part of the slow vibration of existence. If you listen long enough, you can still hear them, faint and low, resonating within the silence. It is the same sound that has always been there, beneath the storms, beneath the songs, beneath the endless turning of the earth. It is not the end of history, it is the breathing space between chapters. The stars above shift imperceptibly, the constellations older than any empire. Their light moves through the atmosphere and lands softly upon the ruins below, touching each stone as if in benediction. In their pale glow, the shapes of the past are faintly visible. Arches, roads, towers, shadows of what once was. But they do not demand to be remembered. They simply exist, peaceful in their decay. The night accepts them as it accepts everything, without judgment or distinction. Beneath the stars, the world exhales once more, releasing the last remnants of the day. What remains is pure equilibrium. No noise, no need, no motion. Only the quiet hum of continuity. The steady pulse of the earth, turning in its sleep. And so the story comes to its resting place. The fires cool, the pages close, and the echoes of centuries fall into alignment. The world lies beneath its own weight, serene and whole. Time softens its pace until it feels like breath itself. Slow, circular, eternal. The memory of all that has been remains, not as noise or light, but as warmth. History does not die, it simply drifts into stillness, conserving its energy for another beginning. The silence that follows is not absence, but promise, the deep pause between what was and what will be. The story waits there, in the dim glow of the horizon, preparing quietly for dawn. When the first light returns, it will not awaken the world abruptly. It will arrive softly, as it always has, touching the surface of the earth with the gentlest whisper of renewal. Until then, the world rests, calm, complete, unbroken. The breath of history continues beneath the soil, beneath the stars, beneath the silence itself. The story does not end, it only sleeps, and in that sleep, everything, the living, the lost, the remembered, and the forgotten, remains together, breathing as one. When all stories have quieted and every fire has drawn its final breath, what remains is not emptiness but stillness, a kind of peace that belongs only to the end of motion. The world, after its long journey through noise and glory, folds itself gently into rest. The marble halls of Rome, The dust roads of America, the songs of wanderers, all dissolve into the same calm rhythm. History exhales, and the air that fills its absence is warm, soft, patient. Nothing is truly lost, it only changes its form, drifting from sound into silence, from memory into breath. Across centuries, the same pulse continues, a slow heartbeat beneath the soil, beneath the sea, beneath every quiet sky. The voices that once rose in triumph now hum like wind across old stones. The laughter of feasts, the rhythm of tools, the whispers of storytellers, all merge into a single tone too deep for hearing. It is not sorrow that fills it, but balance. Each age gives way to another with grace, surrendering its shape so the next may form. Even in stillness, creation persists. Somewhere, light remains. It flickers not in torches or cities, but in the small gestures of the living, a hand tracing words across a page, a breath shared between two, a song murmured into night. These are the true embers of history, carried quietly forward. They do not demand to be seen, they endure by being remembered. The world itself becomes the storyteller now, speaking through rustling leaves, through shifting tides, through the silence that follows every ending. Time, in its long patience, gathers all of it, the voices, the echoes, the fragments, and folds them into itself. The past becomes not a distance, but a foundation, a pulse that sustains what is still to come. To live, to dream, to rest, is to participate in that rhythm. You are not apart from history. You are made of it, breathing with it, carried along its unbroken current. As the final light dims, the earth seems to listen to its own quiet. The stars above tremble faintly, as if aware of the long breath that binds all things together. There is no farewell, no conclusion, only the soft continuity of being. The story sleeps, but the warmth remains. The warmth of everything that ever lived, everything that ever sought meaning within the vast calm of time. And in that endless stillness, history itself becomes a lullaby, gentle, enduring, forever breathing beneath the silence of the world.